Before we talk about hauntings, bones, or ghosts, it's important to pause and understand what Sedlec Ossuary actually is. This is not a horror attraction. It is not a macabre art installation. It is a functioning chapel, built almost entirely from human remains. Sedlec Ossuary sits beneath a small church in Kutná, Hora, Czech Republic. Inside are the bones of an estimated 40,000 to 70,000 people, arranged into chandeliers, coats of arms, pyramids, and altars. Every bone you see once belonged to a real person. And that matters. The story begins in the year 1278, when the King of Bohemia sent a monk from Sedlec Monastery to Jerusalem. When the monk returned, he brought back soil from Golgotha, the site where Christ was crucified, and scattered it across the monastery cemetery. Almost immediately, Sedlec became one of the most desirable burial sites in Central Europe. People believed being buried there would guarantee salvation. Over the next centuries, thousands came. Then came disaster. The Black Death swept through Europe in the 14th century, killing millions. Later, the Hussite Wars added mass death through violence. Bodies were buried faster than they could be mourned. Eventually, the cemetery overflowed. Bones were exhumed and stored beneath the church. By the 19th century, the task of organizing the remains was given to a woodcarver named František Rint, who was instructed to do something unprecedented: turn the bones into art. Imagine being Rint, surrounded by skulls, femurs, rib cages, remains of plague victims, soldiers, children, monks. You are not sculpting marble or wood. You are arranging the evidence of human mortality. Rint cleaned and bleached the bones, then assembled them into elaborate structures. The most famous is the central chandelier, said to contain at least one of every bone in the human body. He even signed his name in bones. This was not meant to be frightening. It was meant to be a reminder. Memento mori. Remember, you must die. Pause here. Everything so far has been history. Faith, war, disease, art. What comes next is where people begin to disagree. Because many who enter Sedlec Ossuary say it does not feel peaceful. Visitors often report an overwhelming emotional response the moment they descend the stairs. Sudden sadness, tightness in the chest, a sense of being watched not by one presence but by many. Some claim the air feels heavy, as if sound itself is absorbed by the bones. Others describe faint whispers, shuffling noises, or the sensation of movement in their peripheral vision. Paranormal investigators argue that Sedlec is not haunted in the traditional sense. There are no violent apparitions or dramatic poltergeist events. Instead, they describe it as a place of residual human presence, an accumulation of death without individual resolution. They ask a disturbing question: what happens when tens of thousands of people are reduced to anonymous decoration? Now we need to step back. Skeptics argue the reactions people experience inside Sedlec Ossuary are psychological, not paranormal. Humans are biologically wired to react to skulls and bones. Exposure can trigger anxiety, derealization, and emotional overload. The silence, low lighting, and confined space amplify internal sensations. Cultural expectations also play a role. Visitors arrive expecting something disturbing, and the mind responds accordingly. Historians emphasize that the ossuary was never intended to honor individuals, but to convey a theological message. Death is universal, and humility is essential. Still, even skeptics admit something unusual happens here. People fall silent, voices lower, time seems to slow. So when people ask whether Sedlec Ossuary is haunted, the question may miss the point. This is not a place where the dead are hidden. They are displayed, acknowledged, confronted. Sedlec does not ask you to fear ghosts. It asks you to face mortality. And for many, that is far more unsettling. Is Sedlec Ossuary haunted by spirits, or haunted by the truth that every life ends the same way? Which truth do you believe?